military facilities, but modern war is different. The environment is often treated as a forgotten victims of war. Environmental destruction has been increasingly become a deliberated military strategy or just become a collateral damage. And environmental also serve ecological damage can be undermined the post conflict recovery by weakening the food security, water access, public health, biodiversity, and economic resiliences. For military behavior cannot be always be explained by cost and benefit calculation alone. Decisions are also influenced by a norm, identities, belief, what it's still considered appropriate to bring us to the second perspective of the logic of appropriateness. And we can explain the what should we call the ecosites in the two different part the from the logic of consequences. The environmental damage create the long-term humanitarian and economic ecological consequences that perish along of hostilities ends. And from this perspective of logic of consequences, environmental destructions may be viewed as a strategic choices, and military actors may be deliberately targeting the dam, energy infrastructure, agricultural lands, and water system because its attack the weaken the open-net economy and reduce the civilian resiliences and increasing political pressure. And also, we can look in Gaza. They are very intention to make Gaza inhabitant. And in the much of the news have been said about make Gaza will be not have to capacity to the living to the Gaza. Okay, the logic appropriateness, actor do not always make decision based only cost and benefit calculation. Instead, it is often act according to norms, values, identity, and rules about what considered appropriate in a particular situation. Actor asks different questions instead of asking, "What will I gain?" What will I gain? They ask what is the right things to do, what is expected someone in my positions. A military commander may be decided not to attack a hospital or even the river, but if doing so could be provide the military advantages because international humanitarian law and military ethics consider such as an attack inappropriate. The logic appropriateness is the environmental protections depends on whether the military actors recognize the environment as something that should be protected during the armed conflict. If environmental destruction is viewed as consistent with the international law and humanitarian principle, then actors are expected to avoid the action that causes severe the ecological harm. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, we move to the cases. We can see that the Russia-Ukraine war causes extensive environmental damage, with approximately 1/3 of Ukraine forest destroyed, 20% of its protected area affected. 35% of European depositors within Ukrainian territory placed under the threat. Also reported by European Parliament in 2023, reported that the conflict inflicted approximately 52.4 billion euro in environmental damage. The conflict has systematic effects on the ecosystem and food security. We also know the geographical characteristic of Ukraine is very agricultural land, so it will be harming the agricultural land. The UNEP also 2023 estimated that environmental recovery in Ukraine will be required at least 15 years. So it's very long-term impact and damage for this conflict involving extensive landmine clearance, agricultural land rehabilitations, and remediation of industrial pollutions. The total cost of environmental recovery is projected. This is 100 billions US dollars. Next. Okay, this is Kavoka Dams cases, the destruction of Kavoka Dams in June 2023. Further intensify ecological degradation by contaminating river system, disrupting aquatic ecosystem, and causing extensive downstreaming and environmental damage, reaching the Black Sea, making it one of the most severe the environmental disaster of this conflict, Ukraine and Russian war. And also, UNEP also reported that disaster released billions of cubic meters of water, flooding 80 settlements across the Kherson and Mykolaiv regions, and floods waters carry sediments contaminate with the pesticide and fuels and heavy metal from industries and agricultural area downstream into the Black Seas. Okay, you can see the picture on the right. Okay. Also, there are pollution and degradation of soil. According to FAO 2023, more than 30% of Ukraine agricultural land has been directly damaged by the war, while approximately 20% of has become inaccessible or cultivation due to the landmine contamination. This is a degradation of soil in Ukraine. So you can see the picture on the right of screen. There are bombs and agricultural lands in Ukraine. The Conflict and Environment Observatory 2025 estimated that the war generated more than 115 million tons of CO2, carbon dioxide, equivalent of emissions within just 2 years, exceeded the annual greenhouse gases emission of 175 countries. Okay. Also, there are study from Zalake Kiat future confirmed that strong correlation between the intensify of military operation and rising level of pollutions in Ukraine. Let's to move to the next slide, please. Okay, this is the Gaza cases. The escalation of conflict on 7 October in 2023 marked another tragic chapter of the long-standing Israel and Palestinian conflict, and sharing in the pace of destruction that has been far more intense and widespread than the previous period of violence. And also critical life support system, including water resources, agricultural land, civilian infrastructure, political system. Sorry. Okay, have been subjected to massive and systematic destruction, severely and disturbing the livelihoods and the populations in Gaza. The environmental devastation has become compound the humanitarian crisis, further worsening the living condition of civilians already trapped within the conflict zones. They are already blockaged, and also there are environmental damage on this conflict, but it is very different with the Ukraine cases. Environmental degradation have become more than incidental consequences in armed conflict. It increasingly appears to constitute the deliberated and systematic pattern of destruction. We can see in the Gaza cases. Okay, please. Okay, the extensive targeting of water resources in Gaza. Actually, there are targeting water resources, agricultural land, and essential civilians infrastructure has been intensified international debate over whether such as action may be constitute ecocide or not under the international law. Okay, next. Next. Okay, this is a report from FAO and also the study from Yin et al. Comparison with UN SET that there are agricultural damage uh, in the Gaza conflict. Okay, sorry. The agricultural damage in Gaza, according to report from FAO, is based 42.6% of agricultural land in Gaza has damaged by February in 2025. And also there are increasing of 57.3% in May 2025, reaches to 67.6% by September on 25. From this data, this progressive destructive environmental damage in Gaza, when the conflict has been arise since on October, sorry, in October of 7th, there are progressive destruction of agricultural land in Gaza, which is the damage affected the three major agricultural category. 71% of orchard and tree crops, including olive, dates, citrus, and other fruit trees. And also there are 67.1 of field of crops, such as wheat, barley, legumes, and animal feed. And 58 of vegetable crops has been damaged for this conflict. Okay, let's move the next. Okay, water also become one of uh, the phenomenon in the Gaza conflict. Gaza water infrastructure have been destroyed, including 3-day salination plan for converting seawaters into drinking waters. Uh, there are water infrastructure in Gaza have reached a critical state of degradation. Five wastewater treatment plants have been reportedly ceased on operations, while the territory-only aquifer has become heavily contaminated with the more than 19% of its water no longer considered as safe of human consumption. Research from Ahmed, 2024. Furthermore, 97% of water samples collected in Gaza failed to meet the World Health Organization's drinking water quality standard, indicating that the territory groundwater has become almost entirely unfit for consumptions. Okay, please, next. Okay, this is my research comparative findings from my previous 2025 maybe research. There are several indicators to understand what the conflict ecocide in Ukraine war and the Gaza conflict. From this insight, we can see that the geography is in Ukraine war has a large area, cross-border, industrial, and agricultural, with economic that depends on energy infrastructure and water system. In the Gaza conflict, relatively, the land is full of soil area with the tropical climate, dense region, urban tract with the limited water and land resources. It's very limited to the international humanitarian. Also, we can recognize that. Military strategy. From the military strategy, we can see that the Ukraine wars is military to attacking the energy infrastructure, artillery warfare, and occupying the territory. But in the Gaza conflict, total blockade is implemented by Israel and urban bombardment and siege. And the main type of damage is industrial damage, chemical, heavy metals, factory leaks, dams, and mines. When we can see that in the Gaza is very limited on the water damage, sanitations, aquifer, farmlands, covers, and basic of infrastructure. Indication of ecocide and intention is ecocide pattern to be weaken the country's capacities. But in the Gaza conflict, the intention is the pattern of destruction show the tendency to make Gaza habitable. Environmental attack orientations from this indicator, we can see that the Ukraine war has weakened the country capacity, cut the logistic, and create political pressure to the Ukrainian. But in the Gaza conflict, we can the environmental attack orientation is based on the weakens the populations, destroy the supporting life system, create the displacement pressures, and damage character. We can see that there are different also. The Ukraine war is strategic structural ecocide, poisons, mine, chemical waste, and long-term damage of soil and water. And in the Gaza conflict, it very characterized by the human ecological ecocide, directly hitting the human survival needs. Okay, next. Okay, this is the ecocide in Ukraine. War is described as infrastructural and industrial ecocide, operating on very large of scale, focusing on attack of energy, chemical plants, mines, and dam like Kakhovka. Attack on this industrial target caused by heavily metal pollution, chemical leaks, toxic mine waste, and air contamination for large of rice. And ecological orientation of Russian attacks aims to weaken the Ukrainian structure of capacity, disrupt the logistic, and create long-term political pressures. This motive align with the Russian identity crisis and the needs of maintain the geopolitical dominance using the environmental as tool, pressure to rival countries' capabilities. And also the Gaza next, please. Gaza ecocide, we can characterize the Israel-Gaza conflict as a part of systematic pattern of human ecological ecocide in much smaller area, but with the near total destructions. It has a more demographic and social orientation than the environmental orientation, with destruction of green spaces, agriculture, and water infrastructure potentially weakening the population ability to survive, making recovery difficult and creating pressure for forced displacement. This conflict can be categorized as ecocide, but there are nature to goal a significant difference because it's very focused on the social of human life in Gaza. Israel target the ecological components that support human or civilians' life, creating the structural humanitarian crisis and unhabitable of condition that directly affect the survival of Gaza populations in this area. Okay, next. So this is my conclusion, maybe. From the comparative findings, we can see that the formation of different pattern of ecocide in these two conflicts is influenced by geographical characteristic in the first place of the conflict area. And geographical characteristics acts as the condition that shape of environmental destruction because they are determine the ecological vulnerabilities, resources distributions, and especially in shaping the military strategy applied. And also the military strategy is important factors to determine the orientation of environmental type of environmental destruction, especially when the energy infrastructures, water system, and agricultural area are systematically targeted as the operations. Okay, next to the conclusion. Okay, this is my conclusion. Learning from the comparison between Russia-Ukraine war and Israel and Gaza, the pattern of ecocide are shaped by the interaction of geographical characteristic, military strategy, and political objective. In the Russia-Ukraine war, it is a strategic infrastructural type of ecocide, and the Gaza conflict explained as human ecological ecocides. Despite to be an uniform concept, the ecocide pattern has various forms depending on its strategy, objective, and geographical context of armed conflict, highlighting the need of international legal framework to better recognize and addresses the environmental destruction as distinctive dimension of contemporary warfare. Thank you very much. Okay, Mbak Palupi, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faisal, for your marvelous presentation related to the ecocide and the armed conflicts, and also how we conceptualize well how international relations perspective maybe in this point of view, creating border narratives on how we respond when ecocide happens, not in a regular global politics interactions, but also related with armed conflict or maybe during special cases like in Gaza, especially because in these matters, as much as I read the newspaper before and several reports from either ICG or ICC, even the major global power in this condition also try to reconceptualize again what kind of genocide that should be uh, categorized as maybe war crimes or crimes against peace and so on. And somehow we know that several countries like South Africa and also the Netherlands itself also try to reconceptualize what kind of genocide because in ICG somehow state became the main actor to be prosecuted. But
Okay.
somehow, when ecocide matters, based on your presentation, I highlighted certain kind of interesting point. In your presentation, you highlight the importance of the ecological or environmental itself. So it doesn't only focus on the states or the important actors inside the conflict, like the military or the defense system of states and so on. But you also put attention on how we put more attention to the environment itself. So you put your presentation on pivotal position, I think, because
Yes.
you explaining
Maybe I
the
can
idea
make
of
it clear. There are two perspectives on
environment.
the ecocide. We can
Oh,
see
okay.
from the human perspective or human as a subject on the ecocide,
Yeah,
or we can placing the ecological or environmental on the first place as the
okay.
subject of the ecocide. Maybe there are very limited research on the to see that the perspective on environmental as the subject on the ecocide. So this research will be open for the
Discussion
intention,
maybe.
but from the intention of war is necessary or often in war is intention to destroy the living conditions to make their suffer or capability to rise again to oppose the military operation. They
Okay.
eliminate the capacity to rise again. So also in the conflict in Gaza, there are the intention of blockading the Gaza Strip. It's to make it more to Hamas not capacity to rise again to against the Israel. So we can conclude that there are two perspectives on
Mm.
the ecocides.
I think it's quite interesting also, Mr. Faisal, if we discuss it further, because you also mentioned the importance of understanding ecocide through to perspective, as I suppose in understanding your presentation, at first the logic of consequences and also the logic of appropriateness. I think your emphasizing on those kind of logic, the logic
Yeah.
of consequences and logic of appropriateness, respectively, it helps the students, also other participant in this forum, to understand more on how we shapes the perspective of examining ecocide. So it's not only in the perspective of the environmental itself, but how it becomes a weaponized sector or maybe weaponized tool to weaken the opposite actors or maybe the opposite
Precisely.
partner, whether it is an war or maybe it's still not as escalated as an open war, maybe it's a conflict or maybe a dispute between two countries far like Ukraine and Russia. And maybe it's also could be happen if the regional inside or outside the conflict itself being destabilized. That is already happens in the Middle East, right? What happens in Yemen, what happens in Oman, somehow.
But we have very limited to see the intentions because
Ah, okay.
several times we doing military operations, but very hard to decide it. It is to see the to preventing the environmental damage or not, because sometimes the the adversaries or opponents just try to adopting the military tactics that will be very benefit from them. So it's very hard to preventing the collateral damage or environmental damage on the war period.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. And I think we now move to the most challenging session in this course, the Q&A sessions. Several students already raised their hands, and maybe I will try to give the spotlight to, sorry, I will open the chat first from Mr. Sohaib Hassan Sain, I suppose, because he write the question first on the chat box. In here, Mr. Sohaib from Pakistan asked two questions, Mr. Faisal. At first, Mr. Sohaib Hassan Sain will try to ask, how can we protect human rights and civilian during war? And the second question is, what is the best way to achieve peace and security for Ukraine? Maybe it based on your two case studies in your presentation previously. And also maybe I would include also the second questions from Mr. Muhammad Arif Rahman. In here, his question related to the important position of international community. Mr. Arif asked if the international community successfully institutionalized ecocide as a crime, how do we envision the jurisdiction of peace in Colombia? Nature has been protected as a victim of the internal conflict. Can you provide maybe some differences between your take on ecocide and the protection of nature as an independent victim? Maybe the second one, I'm sorry.
Maybe there there
Is this
are
different
different
question? I'm sorry.
question maybe.
Yeah. At first,
Okay.
emphasizing from Mr. Arif Rahman, the successful institutionalized ecocide as a crime and how to envision it uh, despite strategic economic interests, and simply refuse to recognize the jurisdiction of such environmental tribunal. It's more like a conceptual approach to the law itself, I suppose. And the third question from Mr. Paula Aguirre is overlapping within my chat room. I'm so sorry. His question related to the case of special jurisdiction of peace in Colombia. Nature has been protected as a victim of the internal conflict. Can you provide some differences between your take on ecocide and the protection of nature as independent victim? I suppose three questions from chat box is sufficient, and after that, I will move to the fourth question arised by our distinguished participants in here. Time is yours, Mr. Faisal.
Okay, the related to the question from Zohaib Hassan Sain from Pakistan, how can we protect the human right and civilian during war? It's very hard to do that because if you look at the conflicts and if you look the security studies and if you look the peace studies on the recent years have been evolving to the issues of the about human rights, the migrations and protected the life, but it is not have been resolved enough because we can see that previous meeting in the day 3 there are genocide. This also happened in Gaza. It's not several times has been ISIS has been uh, uh, make it clear that the Israel have doing the genocide in Gaza, but it's not solve the problems uh, in that war. And we have to protect the environmental as well as when we are in conflict. It's very limited because it's very hard because you have to thinking about the what strategy have to apply it, what military to avoiding the environmental. But sometimes we can see that intentional strategies that will be applied to the especially to look at the Ukraine conflict, Ukraine war. There are some intention of the military of Russia have been evolved to destroy the dam that been causing floodings some areas. So maybe I can conclude it what have to be done to protect the human right as well as the environmental. But you have to put it as the thinking about the depend from the actors and have to what have the consequences to the military operation that will be done, and also what some actions that will be consequence to damage the environment. And also when we see the logic of appropriateness, what norms it is appropriate to do or not, it is to make to destroy opponent with the chemical weapon is appropriate. We just thinking about how to make awareness of societies to make this ecocide as a part of not just international crime, but also the become a part of subject of issues that will be have to uh, thinking. Okay, the second question is what is the best way to achieve peace and security for Ukraine? Okay. What is the best? This is very hard. The two question is very hard because you have to solve the problems in the conflict. But my research is only focused on the what's happenings and how we can develop our type of ecocides on the conflicts, not focusing on the how to resolve. But I will be suggest that international effort have international societies, international organization have to make some cooperation to make it very clear that to solve the problem in to conflict on Ukraine and Gaza conflict, to make effort uh, to sustaining the peace, achieve the peace and sustaining the peace, peace building and peace making on the just those conflict. Because we can see that in this day, in recent day, the the internationals have been separated and fragmented from their point of view. Europe is different from the other countries. United States also have another point of view to see that conflict to solve. So that you have to make it one form of framework to make it long-standing peace on the both conflict. Okay, related to question of Arif Rahman, international community successfully in international institutionalized ecocide, but it's very limited, Mas Arif Rahman, because it just on the part of war crimes in the definition or in Rome Statute. The Stop Ecocide Foundations and the law enforcement and many organizational non-organizational effort that been have been pushing the ecocide as the part as distinctive characteristic of the fifth international crime. But uh, I maybe we can see that from the presentation before that I had placing the ecocide is have standing on the blur concept between environmental degradations and the international crimes. So they have to make it sure which crime will be the ecocide as the transnational crime or international crime, because it's different. International crime have been regulated in the Rome Statute, and transnational crime have been regulated by the norms and the state law. So that you have to conclude it where we can put the environmental crime, or it just a transnational crime, or it's part of international crime. Okay, from the Alexandra Paula,
Yeah,
uh,
about Colombian
Colombian peace. Also,
transnational
so you
process.
the Christian just focusing on the uh, it's part of internal conflict, maybe. Internal conflict, maybe, Mbak Palupi.
Yeah, I suppose based on a quick research about Mr. Paula Aguirre questions, the Colombian special jurisdiction of peace, it related in certain kind of special tribunal. Uh, Established by the government of Colombia related to several collateral damage inside the conflict on Colombia that already include the idea of environmental damage through the transnational legal process. Maybe the question, if I would like to paraphrasing it, but Mr. Paul Aguirre, if you want to open your mic, we will very appreciate
Okay, maybe we can
your
talk about the tribunal
the
of
differences.
the specials. Maybe it's
Yeah.
very different because the effort of
Hmm.
stop ecocide just as a non-organizational effort is uh,
Okay.
putting the ecocide as the international as part of international crime. So
Hmm.
if the another country have placing the tribunal for the cases, so ecocide is very general meaning, the conception. It's not just in armed conflict, but if there's some industrial in this or corporate doing some large or massive pollutions on waters, maybe it's the part of ecocide. There are many research about the putting the corporate also they become the subject victim of, so no subject of law enforcement. So you can see the on my presentation the focus on the armored conflict, but the ecocides definition is more general uh, to explaining the conditions of environmental damage in several area. Thank you. Maybe
Okay, thank you, Mr. Faisal Alfian, for your explanation, especially for the last question from Mr. Paula Aguirre, because in here you clearly position your stance, academic stance on ecocide. It's not only in domestic or maybe transnational legal process in certain kind of cases, but you put the position higher in the realm of maybe international crimes or maybe war crimes, whether ecocide still or ongoing being stipulated into the further
international law.
statute maybe
Yes.
because it's not only related with one a transnational legal process like explaining by Mr. Paula Aguirre in his questions, but you also emphasize the more establishing position since ecocide itself already being uh, understand or maybe being stipulated through ICC reinterpretation and maybe also in ICG. So the position is quite uh, more powerful than uh, previous approach in certain cases include the special jurisdiction of peace in Colombia. It's right to perpetuate the idea of ecocide into the law, international law itself. Do you
Okay.
agree with my stance, or maybe you have any
And
other point?
the nature has to become a subject of appropriateness because the recognize the natural independent as the legal subject in order to for the ecosystem such as rivers, mountain possess the intrinsic right can be recognized as the victim of environmental harm.
Okay, so in your point of view, based on Mr. Paula Aguirre questions, the stance, especially your stance on ecocide, also include the environmental protection of nature itself as independent victim,
Yeah, yeah,
even though
as an
the
independent
law
subject.
itself
So,
is
so
higher.
from the ecocentrics models, so it's very
Mm.
general to apply it in many cases when we see in my research primarily concern on criminal responsibility for observed environmental destructions, the focus of my presentation is not granting the legal personality to the nature, but on determining whether certain acts causing the widespread and long-term or severe environmental damage should be constituted as international crimes.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. If you have any further question, Mr. Paula Aguirre, Mr. Muhammad Al Rahman, and also Mr. Sohaib Hassan Sain, maybe you can continue the discussion with Mr. Faisal through email. And so I will move to another participants who already raised their hands virtually. At first, I will give the time to Mr. Garin and also Miss Inayatul Fitri. And the third one, Mr. Nathan. And the last but not least, I suppose, from Mr. Ivan Moisev. Thank you. Please open your microphone. Maybe Mr. Garin, time is yours.
Okay, so firstly, thank you for the such a nice, insightful presentation from Mr. Alfian. But my question will be outside from both countries that you've mentioned, either Gaza or Ukraine. So I'll try to more focus in on maybe you've ever heard about what happened in Guyana and what is the policy that was enacted by the president of Guyana, Irfan Ali. So basically, that kind of policy become debatable over the sustainable development. The oil boom has fueled the economic growth. Like if we want to take a look, like in 2022, Guyana become and raise more than 60% of its gross domestic product. But at the same time, this issue or this policy concerned about long-term environmental consequences of expanding fossil fuel production. So given this tension and issue, my question is, should the expansion of offshore oil production still be considered as a potential form of ecocide because of its long-term climate and ecological impacts? And if you agree on it, how a country can attain its gross domestic product, like encourage and develop its gross domestic product, but at the same time, it's paradoxically against the environmental consequences. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
maybe I
Garin, for
can
the question.
directly answer the question because you have noticed that Mas Garin about the Guyana cases. When I'm focusing the environmental damage and destruction during the war period, you have been um, uh, uh, more focusing on the maybe the Guyana offshore oils productions maybe. Yes. Can we put this cases as the environmental crime, or and also it can be processed as a transnational crime? These cases in Guyana is providing the interesting example because the country has rapidly expanding the offshore oil productions while also presenting it's itself a supporter of low carbon development and conservation. But it's the policies of oils focusing on maximizing the productions and management revenue, and also there are many cases that will be involving of the transnational destruction of the natural. So in my opinions, in my argument, that placing the Guyana cases as the transnational as international crime of ecocide very it's I agree with your stance when you say that the when someone have politically intended to expand their oil production, but when it's become more intended to destroy the environment or natural and exploit the natural in the harmful way, it can be concluded as the ecocide. But will be came from the definitions first for the ecosites. So if you can look at the perspective when we focusing on the uh, environmental perspective of ecological perspective, you can subject it the cases of Guyana cases is a part of ecocides, or you can define it as transnational environmental crimes. So you can conclude that as because the natural become a subject of environment, but this is the reason why ecocide is hard to implement it as in the Rome Statute, because it's very general, and it's very many cases that involving that corporate crimes for the environmental destruction have been uh, as a part of the definitions and become the subject of criminal in international law of ecocide definitions. Maybe I can answer that perspective, but I didn't have uh, much information about the Guyana cases. Thank you, Mas Garin.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Mr. Garin, you already satisfied with Mr. Faisal answer, I suppose, and maybe it also raising questions again on how certain or specific studies from Colombia, and maybe now you highlight the ideas of Guyana's case, it would also increase the importance of nature itself in the condemnation of war crimes and maybe possible tribunal related to these issues. Thank you, Mr. Garin, for
Maybe
the
in Guyana
questions.
oil context, we can see that ecocide will be focused on the accountability for catastrophic pollutions, oil spills, or maybe reckless of environmental destruction. So it can be concluded that if we do some catastrophic pollutions and widespread of the environmental damage in the long terms, it will become as the ecocide. But the effort of international organizations and also international communities that they just focusing not criminalize the corporate or criminalize the nations, because they just focusing the how accountability to achieve to preventing the damaging of environment in the long term.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation, Mas Faisal. And before we address it, the next question is from the presenter. I would like to address our second speakers in here that already joined our discussion, Mr. Sayed Nialadiki. Welcome to our session. And I hope before the session with Mr. Faisal ended, you could enjoy this discussion and maybe feel accustomed, or maybe try to vibing with the attention of our participants with dynamic questions from day 1 until day 4 to this. Selamat siang, Pak Yatno. Hope you well in Malaysia.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Halo,
I'm
Pak.
enjoying with the Mas Muhammad Faisal explain.
Yes.
I am enjoying, really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Pak
Nice to meet
Yatno.
you, Pak
Yeah.
Associate Professor Pak
Yeah.
Yatna.
We
Thanks.
will continue the discussion
As
and
Okay.
long
Please continue.
time no see, Pak Suyatno,
Yeah.
since you are been Indonesian in
Yeah.
2024.
we could
Okay,
hope
continue, please.
meet
Continue.
you again
Yes.
physically after
Okay.
this virtual event, Pak Yatno. Thank you for your
Okay.
time to uh, experience the discussion on the session 1.
Okay.
I'm
Please
sorry, on the
continue.
session 7. Okay, thank you for your patience, all of the participants. I would ask after Mr. Garin, maybe Miss Inayatul Fitri, you could open your microphone. Time is yours. Maybe we have maybe 10 minutes, right? The committee? 10. 14 minutes approximately. So please deliver your question as quickly as possible. Thank you, Miss Inaya.
Thank you, Ms. Valpi and Ms. Faisal. I would just like to address something that happened recently. If you are aware, in West Sumatra, there was a huge flooding earlier this year. So my question would be, does Indonesia's permitting all of these facilities, mining or let's say palm oil plantations, facilities on active fault lines perhaps, and in high rainfall zones, like in Sumatra or Kalimantan, is actually constitute as a breach of this whole kind of, let's say, a due diligence or due diligence obligations, even though the harm is domestic rather than transboundary? And can we consider that as part of a ecocide as well? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Miss Inayatul. Maybe an answer from Mr. Faisal related our occurrence events on the previous
Okay.
months. Do
Yeah.
you have any academical sense, despite maybe the heated discussion in our domestic political decision making, but also I hope it could increase the importance of ecological damage despite several controversial policy from our government. Thank you for
Okay, maybe the land clearance. Yeah, as a
answer.
part of land clearance to open the palm oils land. That's maybe this is interesting topics and questions because it's part of our national issues. In my view, the West Sumatras and also Papua also have facing the serious environmental problem because it not just automatically constitute as ecocide, but it's also the as the environmental and transnational, because if you clearance the lines and make the air pollutions, will be the wind will be bring the pollutions to the another countries. This is a part of transnational crime also, you can conclude it like that. But under the proposed the definitions of ecocide developed by the Stop Genocide, Stop Ecocides as the non-governmental organizations, the key issue is decision maker committed unlawful acts with the knowledge there are substantial likelihood causing the severe and widespread and or the long-term environmental damage. If the government fail the exercise the due diligence, for example, by ignoring the known environmental risks such as deforestation, poor watersheds management, or unsafe land using planning, and that could be potentially engage the question of the state's responsibility or the administrative liability. So the failure of the due diligence also alone does not necessarily satisfy of legal threshold of ecocide. From my perspective, uh, the West Sumatra crisis is better understood at least based on the current evidence as possible questions of due diligence and environmental governance. It's very clear the case of ecocides. It may be informed the ecocides debate, but it does not itself establish the element of crime, because we have to look deepen on the definitions of the giving by the giving that by the NGO and international society about the ecocide. But we have a debate on this matter because we have also the concept of transnational crime, but we also the concept of ecocide that rising recently day. So we can debate about, we can conclude that the West Sumatra cases as the part of transnational crime, or it's become of ecocide crime. Thank you.
Okay, for the answer, Mr. Faisal, and I hope it would satisfy your question, Ms. Inaya. And the next we will move to Mr. Ivan Moisev. Time is yours. Kindly open your speakers. Thank you.
Dear moderator and dear Mr. Faisal, thank you so much for an opportunity to have a floor. So actually, I don't have a question, but I'd like to comment on. So the topic which you raised during this lecture is really crucial and significant, especially ecocide. And so I have a bunch of comment on that. Please don't forget to critically assess any armed conflict, especially between Russia and Ukraine. Please don't forget that Russia is also exposed to ecocide. Just look at the Kursk region, look at the Belgrade region. And don't forget that Russia is also, especially Russia's oil refactories or oil processing plants are also exposed to bombing and undermining. And also, please don't forget the role of our Western stakeholders, like the European Union, which basically is committed to anti-Russian agenda. And please don't forget also the position of the US in this regard. Because to my mind, such kind of conflicts should be not only be directed only one-sidedly, but double-sidedly as well. That's my just perspective. Please don't forget to critically assess either side acts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. Where are you from, Ivan? Actually,
Actually, I'm from Russia, from Ural region. Yeah.
okay, it's okay, it's okay. Because in my research recently, just focusing on what type and what definitions of ecocide will be happens in recent war. Because we can have hard to eliminate the situation when you are putting the conflict, when you are in the conflict, what tactics have to be implemented, what military strategy should be implemented to avoiding the environmental harm or environmental destruction. So this maybe my research will be focusing on that matters. How the subject of war, like the nations or military captains or a general, have to implement it, the military tactic that will be not intentionally to harming the environment. Because if you look from the logic of consequences, will be the widespread and long-term destruction will be after the conflict. It's so hard to make possible the area will be habitable again. So this is maybe my research will be focusing on the raising the awareness of the peoples of the nations that you don't have to placing the environment as the collateral damage of the second object of war. You can place it on the first when you implementing the military agenda. So thank you for the confirmation. So maybe on next research, I will be focusing on the criticizing the what the narrative between different opposite countries. Maybe in my next research. You can also join with me, Mr. Ivan.
Thank you,
Because
very
much. Yes.
these cases are really tricky and really interesting to, I mean, astounding to investigate and research. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Ivan, for your commentary for this idea, because as you said before, we really appreciate that you point out the both sides flaws, whether it is from Western powers, and also you also put much attention on how the ideas of their power itself also create or maybe I would say a jeopardizing act on Russia interests on the European blocs, and also maybe the security position of Russia in Eastern Europe and also its backyards, that somehow it's understandable that Russia somehow took certain kind of unpopular way to maybe stabilizing their interest in the Caucasian or Eastern European region. Thank you for your ideas on that matter.
Yes, this research not necessarily mean that the concept of ecocide will be putting the nations or actors or it is anti-Russians or not. It is anti-Russian agenda. It's not. But my lecture is focusing on the what the concepts have been developing. So with the recent report recently on the legal debate on ecocides of several cases. Yes, so I didn't putting the side on whether true or not or good or evils on the case of war, because I just have to make it the cases of to look at from the cases to make concluding the definition of ecocide have been developing, and also we can see from the subject of environmental as subject of crime. So we can say that the concluding the some site is become a part of criminal or not. It's the job for the international organization. It's not my job, because my job is just make it clear that ecocide is we can see from the environmental as the subject, not just secondary subject on international crime. So that like that. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mas
Thank you
Faisal.
for Ivan.
Thank you also for the quite dynamic uh, commentary from Mr. Ivan Moisev. And in here, I will wrap three questions from Mr. or Miss Alejandra Rodriguez and also Muhammad Kaiser Valentino, because essentially both of the questions are linked with each other. Where Alejandra focused on how Latin America's shifting politic impact on environmental crimes, especially with the selling water assets to foreign corporates such as Argentina and the surrounding countries, and the effect of ecocide in the Amazon. Maybe your research could give uh, academic insight to the shifting policies in Latin America, especially when ecocide somehow being related with water crimes or maybe water issues in several countries in Latin America. And the second one, although Mr. Muhammad Kaisar Valentino addressing Indonesia, the question is quite similar, I suppose. In here, Muhammad Kaisar tried to emphasize the question on how far or in what extent Indonesia could achieve economic growth by utilizing their natural resources without causing ecocide. Do you have any insight on this? Maybe two questions, Mr. Faisal, but in 1 minute, I suppose. Thank you.
That's very short time for answering the three different questions. Maybe I want to highlight the three different legal issues for the ecocide from this many questions. Uh, we have to look at the ecocide is not natural disasters. It's intentionally due by military operations. Maybe we can see that there are much policies that will be causing this environmental damage. Also, we also involve some things. Maybe we can harm the environmental. Maybe we build a dam, but make the river not flow for inhabitants, or maybe we can such as do some activities not in armed conflict, just not an armed conflict, but in our general daily life, also involving it to do some environmental damage. But on the definitions of ecocide is very very general to make it clear that the actions of maybe military operations or maybe policies that will be harm the environmental widespread and severe the destruction of environmental become as part of environmental and ecocides. So if we do international law have not been regulated the ecocide as the part of the standing law alone, but it's including the war crime. So we can see that ecocide just place on the war crime issues. But on by definition, we can see that the ecocide is make a many very separated cases, maybe in Guyana or Latin America. So our task today is will be um, looking for the ecocide concept as the wide, or we can make it more deeply and specialized or in armed conflict or not. It is just become a discussion of recently research. Thank you, Mbak Palupi.
Thank you for your time, Mas Faisal. And the time is really short. I think it's also ended by the committee. So I would like to say thank you for your presentation, also your attention to answer the dynamic question from all of the participants. And I hope we could wrap another questions from you, because the time is also limited. I will try to proceed the question to you, and maybe if you have any correspondence with the participants, is it possible to reach out you through email?
Email and WhatsApp, it's okay.
Okay, I will inform with the participant if certain question maybe is still unanswered in the session. I think it's the end of this session and in the first session of these days before we move to the second session with Professor Yatno. As on the behalf of the committee, we would say thank you to Mr. Faisal and also the participants in here. I hope the insight from Mr. Faisal will increase your curiosity and maybe understanding on how ecocide also being an important discussion on international crimes, and maybe with the cases in Gaza and also Palestine and several questions whether is it from Indonesia, from Latin America and certain countries in East Europe and also in Europe, in Central Europe, help you to strengthen your knowledge and maybe once again curiosity on these matters. Thank you for your enthusiasm, and we will meet again on the next session. But before we continue to the next session, I will give the time and floor to the MC. As the moderator of the session, I would say thank you and see you again on the next session. Good afternoon, all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Palupi. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad Faisal Alfian, SCPMA, and our respected moderator, Ms. Palupi, for leading such an insightful discussion.
Today's session deepened our understanding of ecocide in armed conflict, encouraging us to reflect on the impact of armed conflict on the environment and the importance of protecting it under international law.
We also like to extend our sincere appreciation to all participants for your thoughtful questions and active engagement throughout the session.
Before moving on to our second panel discussion, let's take a moment to capture today's memories together. Kindly turn on your cameras, everyone, and show us your brightest smile. Okay, if the committee ready, I'll count down from 3, 2, and 1.
Okay.
I think that's enough.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. We truly appreciate your enthusiasm.
We'll now continue with our second panel discussion featuring Professor Madya Dr. Suryatno Diki from University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Malaysia, who will be present on ecocide use in Belo and international accountability.
We are pleased to once again welcome Ms. Palpi Anggreni, SIPMA, who will continue moderating this afternoon discussion. Without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you, the MC. We will meet again, during the participants. And in here, I would like to introduce first and maybe say hi to Mr. Rayatno. Hello, Mr. Rayatno. Halo, Pak.
Halo, sudah dengar suara saya?
Sudah,
Clear?
Pak. Sudah masuk, Pak.
Oke.
Clear. Thank you for the time. And maybe before we have our session with Mr. Soyatno, I would like to introduce a short curriculum vitae from Associate Professor Dr. Soyatno Ladiki that will be provided by the committee. Okay, in here, the current credential and curriculum vitae from Mr. Soyatno with the distinguished title Associate Professor Dr. Soyatno Ladiki, expertise on democracy, international political economy, globalization, and political science. He got his bachelor degree in Universitas Jember in international relations and MSc in Universitas Gadjah Mada in political science and international relations. He also got his PhD in University Science Malaysia in political science, and now he became the associate professor in international relations, Department of Faculty of Law International Relations since 2017, and now another distinguished position and also achievement from Associate Professor Dr. Suyatno Ladiki is a member of American Political Science Association from 2022 until 2025, and also International Editorial Board from Global Strategies Journal from Universitas Airlangga with National Accredited Position Sinta 2, and the research grant from Construction of Identity in Special Dimension funded by Kementerian Pendidikan Tinggi in Batik Island on 2026, and also the annual meeting EPSA Washington DC in 2018, research grant from Comparative Studies of Migration Indonesia, Malaysia, and Sweden in 2013 and also 2016. The International Relations and European Studies Central European University in Hungary, also USM Fellowship in University Center of Malaysia, and also Taiwan Fellowship in Taiwan. This is several contribution, whether it is from national level, international level, from Mr. Ladiki. At first, in senior lecture in International Relation Department in UPN Veteran Yogyakarta, senior lecture in International Relation Department in UMM Malang, senior lecture in UUM School of Governance and College Law and Government International Studies, senior lecture in UNER, tutor in University Science Malaysia, and several book publications range from issues on law, social and politics, the dynamic of law and politics in Southeast Asia, book publication menjelajahi demokrasi, book publication socio-political dimension, and also the unraveling of Malaysia Indonesian potentially in 2021, and book publication also still in translation, Manusia and Citra Dirinya in 2025. I hope it would help you to increase your curiosity about the materials from Mr. Sayatno. And this is several of global academic impact from him. At first, 70 plus publication, whether it is from Scopus, WAS, and other indexed journal, 15 plus countries, international speaking and engagement and collaboration, visiting scholar and guest lecture from various university, and also supervision of 27 thesis supervision and international studies bachelor to PhD level across multiple universities. It's very wonderful achievement, Prof. Yatno. We are so proud of you. You came across from Malaysia and you deliver your presentation today in our International Relations Summer Course in 2026. Thank you for the committee. You can take down any slides. Halo Pak.
Yeah, can I share my slide?
So you will share the screen by
Yeah.
yourself, Pak?
Yeah,
Okay.
by myself. Yeah.
We will still wait for your share screen, but before we continue the discussion, please fill the attendance list from our committee, dear participants, and within 1 minute, I will share time and floor to Mr. Yatno. Thank you, Pak. Could we start it now in 1.5 hours in total?
Okay.
It's include with your question and session answer. Thank you, Pak. Time is yours for your presentation.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Ya,
Kabar baik, Mbak ya. Lama tak jumpa.
kabar baik, Pak. Sehat selalu di Malaysia, Pak.
Ya.
Okay, Pak. It's already in
Okay.
our screen. Time is yours.
Already ya? Okay.
Ya.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Good
wabarakatuh.
afternoon. I'm Dr. Suyatno Ladiki from Faculty of Law and International Relations, University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Malaysia. Welcome to the sessions because I have a title Ecosite using Belo and International Accountability. I think I would like to complete because previously session is more complete discussion about ecosites, but maybe I will try to give the others perspective or the others knowledge for participants is maybe quite different with the previous sessions. Because my presentation will examine relationship between safer environmental destructions, the laws governing conduct during arms conflict, and the questions of responsibility under international law. Because I have three concepts about this topic. The central issue is not only whether environmental harms occurs during war, but whether such harms can and should trigger legal accountability. The session invites us to think critically about how international law responds when warfare damages ecosystems, damage communities, and also damage the condition necessary for human survival. In this slide, I try to begin with the research question. This is not just an academic question, actually. It's just a question of survival. We're asking if the rules we've made to govern ourselves are strong enough to protect the world we live in, because right now, the law threats destroy forests or poisons river very differently, depending on whether it happens during a war or during peace. And that difference is leaving a massive hole in our justice system. We have three concepts. To really understand the problem, we have to get three big ideas straight. First, there is ecocide, which is basically the killing of our home, the killing of our planet. Then there is a jus in bello, the rules of war that are supposed to limit the damage during combat. And finally, international accountability, which asks the tough question, who exactly can we hold responsible when this damage happens? A soldier or CEO or entire country? This is a good question because the follow three concepts that a committee sends to me to discuss with you. And then let's start with the core definition. So what is ecocide actually? It is not pollution or it is not a little deforestation. It is when environmental damage is widespread and severe that it wrecks the entire ecosystem for a long time. The word itself comes from the ancient Greek and Latin, meaning killing our home. It's a powerful way to think about it, just like we talk about genocide to mean killing a people, when ecocide is killing our home. And then around 2010, a visionary lawyer named Paul Higgins started a campaign to make ecocide the fifth international crime, rank up there with genocide and war crimes. A few letters, a few in 2021, a panel of legal experts actually wrote a solid legal definition for it. And it's no longer just a free idea. More and more countries are supporting it with its hug steps. And then after that, define the fifth crime. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, currently has the power to prosecute for major crimes. But there is a gaping hole where the environment should be. The idea of ecocide is to fill that hole. The official definition focuses on the massive destruction of ecosystems, which ruins the lives of and peace of the people who depend on them. It's about protecting our shared home. And then ecocide has four characteristics. To make clear understand for ecocides, so we try to give understand about the four characteristics itself. For something to be considered ecocide, it has to hit all four of this very specific mark. The damage has to be truly widespread, covering a big area. It has to be severe, causing a whole system to collapse, and it has a long times. It means think 10 years or more. And finally, it cannot be an accident. It is to be done recklessly or deliberately, knowing the harm it will cause. This is important characteristic if we want to know about what exactly ecocide. And then the slides also try to give how to moral versus legal liability, because the argument here is about looking at the big picture. We are not just talking about a single oil spill. We're talking about the cumulative cost of doing business, where destroying the planet is just as a part of the economy. They shift the conversation to the idea of strict liability. Think of it like a manslaughter. You don't need to prove someone intends to kill, just their reckless action caused death. Ecocide will be like that for our planet. And then try to see what's happened ecocide when war times, during war times. History gives us some truly horrifying examples. During the Vietnam War, the US spreads millions of gallons of Agent Orange, for example, destroying forests and causing bird defect that persists to this day. In the Gulf War, another example, Iraq set hundreds of oil wells on fire, causing an environmental catastrophe. And just recently, destruction of a dam in Ukraine flooded a massive area. During this conflict, the environment is often just used as a weapon or is the first casualty. This is the historical examples in wartime that ecocide was happening. In the peacetime, during a peacetime, here's the shocking part. The vast majority of environmental destructions happens when we're at peace, driven by profit. And right now, there's almost no international law to stop it. Think about the record-breaking deforestation in Amazon, the massive forest fires in Indonesia, in Sumatra and also Kalimantan, for example, that shocks the region for months. The decades of oil spills in the Niger Delta, for example, or mining waste being dumped directly into the sea in Sulawesi. This is a real threat. So this is the ecocide when it happened during peacetime. The global movement, this slide tried to explain how the push criminalize ecocide has grown from grassroots idea to serious issue being debated in international tribunals. Back in the early 2010s, big campaigns started to get people talking. Then in 2016, the Monsanto Tribunal in The Hague made the powerful point about holding a corporation accountable. The movement is built on a simple principle. Crimes are committed by real people, not by faceless organizations. And then let's see connect to the use in Belo. But before it, I try to explain at use at Belum versus use in Belu. There is a big differences in international law between the rules for starting a war and the rules for fighting one. Use at Belum is about whether going to war is justified in the first place. Use in Belo, the other side, on the other hand, are the rules of conduct during the war. The key idea is that even if a war is justified, it doesn't mean you can fight it however you want. You still have to follow the rule. And then what is use in bello? Use in bello, also known as international humanitarian law, is the set of rules intended to limit suffering during armed conflict. Its core principles are about distinctions, proportionality, military necessity, and humanity. Its framework designed to protect civilians to a certain extent, the environment. But as we'll see, it has some serious flaws. The big problem with the current laws is that the bar is set way too high. Proving damage is widespread, long-term, and severe is practically impossible. On the top of that, the laws only protect the environment in the times of war, completely ignoring peacetime destruction. And crucially, the law usually holds states, not individuals, responsible, making it incredibly hard to put a commander or CEO in jail. This is our problem. So, environmental protection in international humanitarian law, the wording of these international treaties is the main obstacles. They say damage must be widespread, long-term, and severe, meaning you have to prove all three things at the same time. It is not easy. It is a very difficult. This is unbelievably high hurdle that has made successful prosecution under this law essentially non-existent. And then let's see case study in Gulf War, 1991. The Gulf War is the perfect example of this failure. Iraq set fire to hundreds of oil wells, a clear violation of international law. The environmental damage was catastrophic, but despite the crime being obvious, no one was ever prosecuted for it. Why? Because it was a state action during a war, and there was no legal mechanism to hold any individual responsible. This is the core gap we need to fix. This is our situation when ecocides try to connect with the using bellow. It's very difficult to implement it. And then the other concept that we discussed today, except ecocide and using bellow, is international accountability. So what is that? If we have the laws, who is supposed to enforce them? Real accountability has to reach everyone, from state to individual to massive corporations. Courts like the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and International Criminal Court, ICC, can be used, but they are limited. The ultimate goal is to create a system that deters these crimes, deliver justice for the victims, and forces those responsible to pay for the damage. All right, let's start with the big picture. When we talk about holding anyone accountable for massive environmental destruction, what we call ecocide. When we talk about the massive environmental destruction, so what we may call ecocide. The first place that often comes to mind is the ICJ. This is UN's main judicial body. But it's crucial to understand one fundamental rule right from the start. The ICJ only handles disputes between sovereign states. Sovereign state. That means one country has to sue another country. It is not a court where you or I, even environmental NGO, can bring a case. It is strictly a government to government affair. This is a big UN court where one country can sue another. And yes, it has worked before. In 2014, Australia sued Japan over walling and Australia won. In 2015, Costa Rica sued Nicaragua over river damage and Costa Rica won. So the court can protect the environment, but only when governments are willing to take each other on. But here's the real problem. Only state may bring cases. That means you cannot sue a corporation like an oil company or a mining giant. Even there, they are causing massive destructions. And even when government do sue, these cases drag on for 5 to 10 years. It's too long. By the time rulings coming, the forest is gone, the reef is dead, and it's too late to undo the harm. So while the ICG is a powerful tool, it's just too slow and too limited for the environmental crisis we are facing right now. So in this slide, following these previous slides, corporate liability at the national level. In a handful of countries such as France and Belgium have begun drafting laws against ecocide. But there is a huge challenge. NGOs in France have tried to sue a giant oil company like Total Energies for climate damage. It was a major test, but multinational corporations are often so big and operate in so many countries that they can escape the law of any single nation. This is a problem. So the challenge to accountability. Why is progress is slow? There are four big reasons. First, science proving that a specific action causes a specific environmental harms is really complicated. Second, sovereignty. Powerful countries do not like being told what to do by international courts. Third, political power. Big corporations spend a fortune on lobbying to protect their interests. And finally, the definition, we are still fighting over what even qualifies as savory enough to be a crime. And then how we can do to overcome these obstacles. So we have some recommendation maybe. So what's the way forward? First, we need to adopt the ecocide amendment to the Rome Statute so it covers both war and peace. Second, we need to make sure CEOs and individual, not just companies, can be held personally responsible and face jail time. And third, We should lower the bar for proof in wartime from widespread, long-term, and safer to simply safer. The step would make the law a practical tool rather than just a lofty ideal. But in conclusions, we are in situation where we have a damage without justice. The laws of war offer environmental some protections, but they are far too weak and narrow. Without making ecocide an international crime, we are left with rules that protect people in war but fail to protect the very planet we all depend on. To truly achieve accountability, we must recognize that destroying our home is the ultimate crime. That brings us to the end of the presentation. The key message is that environmental destruction in armed conflict should not be treated as a secondary consequences of war. It raises serious legal, ethical, and institutional questions about responsibility, enforcement, and the future direction of international accountability. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pak Yatno, for your presentation, and also I suppose it will bring more discussion. I hope after this session, your session, and it will be followed by question and answer. I would like to highlight certain of point of your presentations. At first, we could assume that previously actor in international politics and maybe in IR, they consist from states and also international organization and NGO. But now, if we talk about environmental damage and also maybe the side effects of the operation of certain kind of multinational corporation company, or we somehow call it as MNC, the damage made by the corporation somehow create a toll to the environment. You also mentioned the flaws of international law when it addressed the ideas of justice. If we could compromise the interest of certain contemporary actors such as MNC, and how it correlated with the structure of international law, whether it is still not fulfill position clearly with how we persecute certain actors such as MNC. You put attention and maybe give explanation on how Total, maybe multinational company, is it from US, Total, Pak? Or French?
Friends,
French, okay, right. It has several cases in, I don't know, surprisingly in third world countries. That somehow the government itself, from well less powerful nation than France, cannot fully create a transnational legal process maybe to I don't want to say it as persecute, but maybe find fairness to the ecological damage in their operational activities in the third world countries, where somehow international politics or maybe international law fail to protect the natural laws, or maybe I'm sorry, the natural resources, or maybe also the citizens, or maybe the national interests of the respective countries where the environmental problem happens. And you also highlight why international law somehow has a loophole inside the structure itself, when certain kind of powerful MNC and maybe another actor tries to push their leverage through uh, third world countries, it's not as easy as it is to advocate the interest of the environmental damage from third world countries. You also mentioned the rise of another actor except multinational companies, whether it is an NGO or INGO, that somehow increase the awareness and also advocating the interest of community maybe, and also minor or less powerful nations in order to address their position in environmental problem, and how we should pursue the ideal way of international uh, law, and maybe the vision of fairness is not only from international law perspective, I suppose, but we could discuss it later with the students and also the participants in here. Uh, I understand your position is more related to international political environment, international politics, and maybe IR. But if it's any explanation from your participants in this session in the matter of maybe global political economy or maybe international business, I think it will be interesting because it will broaden the discussions. So
Yeah.
all of the participants in here, could you maybe raise your hand or maybe fill the chat box below to address question through Mr. Yatno. I think there's three questions, Pak Yatno.
Yeah.
The first is delivered by Mr. Sohaib Hassan Sain in the chat books, and the second one, I think, from Muhammad Kaisar Valentino, and the third one from Raisa Rahmawati. I will read the question from Mr. Sohaib Hassan Sain first. He's from Pakistan, and the question is, how can international law better protect the environment during armed conflicts and war? And the second question, also from Mr. Sohaib, who should be held responsible when war causes serious damage to the environment, and how can they be held accountable? This is the question from Mr. Sohaib Hassan. Do you want to answer the question first, Pak?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
first, how can international law protects environment during armed conflict and wars? Yeah. So and then we should be held responsible when war causes. Yes, and the first question, I think, so this is we understand and then we realize how is the weaknesses of international law, especially if we see the involvement of the war is including the big power, for example, or superpower. So international law like very weak, yeah, because we cannot easily capture the some state during the war, but we still give some hopes for international law, how protect the environmental, because we can see to highlight how is ecocide, for example, as important as a criminal international crime, yeah, international crime. This is still how to a significant proposal for the international community that ecocide as a international crime. So it's mean we can see how international law can protect, even though we face how it's too difficult, especially if involve big power or superpower that during the conflicts. Yeah, for example, in Middle East, it's not easy to bring U.S. To ICG, for example, and then it's not easy to mention how is a superpower must be responsible. But we still hope that to highlight ecocide is still as international crimes. And then how is responsible war causes serious damage to environment, of course, yeah. And then we still fight to understand how war is a damage for environmental. It's not easy because sometimes big interest in the war during war, yeah. Sometimes the political big interest, politics as a big interest of the states is can defeat anything interest such as economy, social, and culture, for example. So sometimes we can see responsibility of the state during the war is very weak because they pursue due to their interest, especially political interest. And then how can be able, so like we mentioned in our presentations, so non-state actors, not only state, yeah, non-state actor international relations can be pushed as active entity to bring this case, to mention, to highlight as ecocides, as a criminal international crime, yeah, international as a fifth pillar of our international law. So it's not easy, I understand, but we still fight how to non-state actors such as a NGO or INGO or such as prominent people, for example, to give a quiet, a strong voice and also push ICG and then especially regional organization, for example, to mention how is damage of war is very important as consequences of war. Maybe something like that, Mbak Palupi.
Pak, thank you for the answer, but I think it's quite interesting question from Mr. Sohaib because previously we talked about ecocide in war crime and how it affected the conceptualization of international crimes and how it affect in the concept of crime against peace and how somehow we could relate it with maybe certain kind of well-known concepts such as responsibility to protect and maybe how state or maybe international organization and international tribunal system try to I don't say it as advocate, but somehow maybe deliver the interest from less powerful nations,
Yeah.
or maybe address the intersection between states, non-governmental organization, and also the interest of MNC itself, and how it stipulated, I mean, the discussion, encouraging the idea of ecocide, it's quite matter. And maybe your presentation not pointed out directly through ecocide, but the idea of certain kind of loophole in international law and maybe in international politics in addressing environmental problem could uh, be more could be interesting to the participants. Thank you for the answer, and I hope Mr. Uh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sohaib will also satisfied with your answer. And now we will move to second question from the participant, Mr. Muhammad Cesar Valentino. Could you open your microphone, please?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the opportunity and the insightful lecture, Professor. So my question is, how can Israel be held accountable for alleged violations of international law when it receives a strong political and military backing from the United States and Zionists, a group with significant influence over international institutions? Thank you.
Thank you. The question from Mr. Muhammad Cesar. This time is yours, Pak Yatno.
Yeah. I also have disappointed about this case because if we see how the international situation today, when Israel attack Iran, and then we cannot stop it because especially Indonesia cannot stop it rather than join in the POB, for example. But actually, we try to talk about ecocide this moment, yeah. But I would like to explain a little bit explanation maybe because we have a topic in ecocides, but it's okay. Mas Muhammad, who is that? Muhammad
Muhammad Cesar, Pak.
Cesar, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mas Cesar, we think we face the big power. We face superpower like US. This is make a frustration, but we can see how Iran still fight to US backup from the Russian and also China, for example, as a new geopolitical shift. This is important for us to understand. We cannot solve the problems if we face with the big power, yeah? Like uh, big mafia, for example. It is a need to pick a power to overcome this problem. So I don't have any good answer. Maybe how to overcome these problems. If we found the fighting is involved the big power like US. So it's mean geopolitics. In my opinion, especially in geopolitical perspective, we can see how the major power like US now they face with the other major power in the other sides like China and Russia using Iran's Israel war as a new geopolitical shift. I think we can see uh, uh, to face US, we have to use the other major power also. And then this is the reason why Iran can still fight until now with the support from the China and Russia. In my opinions, in my humble opinions, I think we can see geopolitical shift. This is my answer, Mbak Palupi.
Thank you, Pak Etno, for your quick answer to Mr. Muhammad Cesar Valentino questions. And we will move toward to Miss Raisa Ramawati. Time is yours.
Thank you so much for the interesting lecture and the opportunity to ask the question. So yeah, as we know that it's still only like 11 or 12 countries that are currently supporting the idea of ecocides to the Rome statutes. And even as you mentioned, the national level effort is still having a like struggle because the corporations you said that can just relocate across borders to dodge the jurisdiction. So my question is, so what do you think that is it like amending the Rome statute is like the really like best path forward? And following to the question, how can we ensure that it could be served not only binding on paper but really in practice? Especially, I thought that during the war is still even like been a struggle, and how could we can implement this during the peacetime? So, do you think which one of the situations would be more easier to implement as a started? Thank you.
Yeah, can answer Mbak Palupi. Thanks, Mbak Raisa. Yeah, I think this is a very good questions. This is the our effort to rise how to ecocide as a important concept to put as a fifth pillars in that I was mentioned previously as international crimes and also how to use definition not only long term widespread but only safer because if we follow the Roman statute, I also agree with the Raisa. We need to amendment about the terms of definition of our category of ecocides. We need to amendment. This is a good progress, but unfortunately, we can see there is a few states only to try to incorporate it with the national law because there are many states more than 200 states in the world, but still we found only a few states. This is a big challenge for our future, how to try to make ecocide as a part of important problem in the future because we need together amendment and we need together to agree how to ecocide as a as an international crime. This is important. I think in the future we need to do because for today ICC and also ICC it's not easy to capture somebody that who fall imply as a genocide ecocides. So in my opinion, I think first as we still have to fight how to put ecocide as an international crime and then how to try to more specific definition or categories of ecocide more safer rather than to use a term like long term or widespread and etc. I think safer is not easy enough because to like that I have previously presented to too difficult to prove as in a science. This is impact the big impact or not. This is a very long proof it. I think I agree with Baisa. So amendment is one of important our effort.
Thank you, Pak Yatno, for the answer. Thank you also for Ms. Raisa for the questions. I hope you satisfied with the answer from Mr. Sayatno. And here we will move for a while to the chat box. There's a question from Muhammad Arif Rahman. Under the current law of war, how can we actually hold military accountable when they destroy the environment and simply claim it was a military necessity? Maybe it will quickly related with your concept previously, like a just war, and how certain kind of concept in IR highlight the importance of national interest before the others, and how it will correlate it specifically with environmental damage in your point of view, Pak Yatno. Thank you.
Yeah. Mas Arif Rahman. So am I. If we talk about the implementation of international law, sometimes we face our frustrations about the successfully result of the process. Because as we know, international interest is more sometimes overcomes anything, especially come from the big mayor of state. So how can we actually hold militaries accountable? How can we as for the US military, for example, it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy because especially if related the environment, yeah, like a Gulf War and etc. And then how can military of Iraq, for example, burns oil? This is not easy to bring because in international law we just only ask for the state to responsible, not the military sections or military, but only state. This is our obstacle. In the international law, we can find many difficulties, something like that. So simply claim it was a military necessity, I don't think so, because this is part of the state actions. This is part of the national interest of the state where they involved in the war. I think these situations, the real situation is something like that.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yatno. I think it's also correlated with the last question in chat box from Miss Nabila Pirsa. She highlight the critical questions, maybe as the previous disaster happened in Sumatra's flood. How can we influence international organization to amend the Rome Statute, making ecocide as a part of gross violation of human rights, which bring up the case in Sumatran disaster? I think it's quite interesting
Yeah.
because in ICC in Roma Statute, uh, the law stipulated on individual level.
Yes.
If we could compromise it with ICG,
Yes.
who focus on state, but in Miss Pirsa questions, she highlight to the international community or maybe international systems able to amend the Rome Statute, which give much more attention to the individual uh, person who held accountable for ecosystem damage in, let's say, in our countries in Sumatran flood. Is it possible? Do you think, Pak Yatno?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I think I agree. I think I also follow the previous sessions. It's not easy because we still want to amendment, for example, yeah, amendment from the uh, Rome Statute, and then also how can we make a jail CEO, for example, yeah, and not just find companies for like that. This is our effort, yeah, and then because individual is also must be responsible, like a CEO of the company. I think we need to amendment for the Rome Statute that cover both war and peace. Yeah. So like I present today as a path forward, adapt ecocide amendment, and secondly, individual corporate liability, and thirdly, lower the threshold, reduce international humanitarian law standard from widespread, long-term, safer to safer only. This is our effort that can solve this problem, because sometimes we cannot jail CEO, jail individual, because we still need to amend our Rome Statute.
Thank you, Pak Yatno, for the answer. I think two questions in a row. No, we still have plenty of time, 20 or 25 or maybe 30 minutes in approximately. But in here we have two questions more from the participant below, from Mr. Ivan Moisev and also Mr. Muhammad Rakib. Time is yours.
Thank you, thank you so much. Selamat sore, Professor Ladici. So my question is regards also the Rome Statute. Basically, as far as we know, Rome Statute is the main treaty which governs the ICC. But do you think that the amendments to the Rome Statute could be really useful, given that basically that such major powers as the US and China, they are not part of the ICC? They don't recognize the authority of ICC, and the Rome Statute consequently. And so, isn't it better? And this also means that basically the ICC cannot sue against the US and Chinese TNCs and MNCs, right? And so, isn't it better to amend, for example, the UN Charter, or put forward through the Security Council some resolution, or establish maybe some body which would sue like not only the countries but also the NGOs, CEOs, and so forth. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Moisev, thank you very much for your comment. Also, a question maybe. I think I agree with you, because like I mentioned previously, we face some problems if we face with the big major power like US, China. This is not easy, especially because if we talk about ICC, if we talk about the sovereignty, this is not easy. And then secondly, ecocide also is not a part of the ICC concerns. This is just a proposal for the scholar how to make ecocide as a fifth pillar of international crimes. This is just a proposal. And then after we found how uh, the big power superpower involved in this case, and then after that we found there are many MNC, for example, under the interest of political and economic interest of the this power, yeah? Such as from the US, from the China, for example, MNC from China, MNC from US. It's not easy to sue them, because as a rule we don't have a law to capture a CEO. And then as a rule, we can only sue state. So when the state reject, when the state refuses, so it cannot be implemented. I agree with you, Mr. Moisev. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Ratno, because I think with the point of view of Mr. Moisev is come from Russia, and I think it gave you a fresh insight from the perspective of Russian citizens, and
Yeah, yeah.
also you could maybe specified your ideas of we cannot easily challenge the MNCs, especially from major host country like maybe China, and also maybe in the Western countries, and also several countries do you in certain of position they held power uh, bigger or maybe heavier than their counterparts, and it somehow also bring the issues of environmental damage would not be easily bring in, I would say, default justice system, or
Yeah.
especially if we would like to put it in domestic level, but because somehow the MNC itself it's quite stronger than
Yeah.
the governmental, especially
Yeah.
if they have any intersection interest, whether it's from the national government or the provincial level government. I think it's quite interesting whether we see if we observe the case in Mexican Gulf, whether
Yes.
the government of Mexico until now are unable to I would say persecute uh, the damage from
Yeah.
shell, but
Yes.
the damage on the Mexican Gulf is quite unbearable for the seashore people in Mexico.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
you,
Mhm.
it's quite devastating because the panoramic gulf became
Yeah.
dark with oil at that time, and there is no sufficient way until now to give the sanction and the energy to clean up the seashore and the Mexican Gulf is not easy to be done single-handedly by the Mexican government.
Yeah.
That's the asymmetrical power that somehow also should be criticized in this forum, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the last question, but I hope it's not least, is from Muhammad Rakib. You can open your microphone, maybe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So my question is kind of relevant to Ivan's question. So before listing ecocide to the Rome Statute, we have to notice that Rome Statute and ICC have their own limitations, such as like if a country is not the member of Rome Statute, ICC can't hold accountable the state, right? And
Yeah.
also for the enforcement of ICC, they have to rely on the Security Council. So the main part of my thinking is that countries like P5 countries recently now Russia and France um, recognized ecocide domestically and they are taking actions, which is much appreciated. But on the other side, US, China, and UK is not responding at all. So my question is here that in your perspective, Professor, what kind of actions could we take to bring the more effective mechanism and accountability for the ICC and also the ecocide?
Can you simple Mbak Palupi?
Okay, maybe Mr. Rakib, maybe you could reopen your microphone and maybe I will help you to simplify the questions. Thank you. Maybe you can uh, tell us again your questions directly.
last
I will
sentences.
help you. Yeah.
Of course. So basically, my question is that countries like the major countries
Mm.
are really not care about the international law and
Okay.
so before 1945 war
Okay.
crimes wasn't a crime also in the international law, but it becomes a crime, right? So ecocide is like that. Ecocide is not a crime right now, but it will be an international crime. So what type of steps can the major powers take now to make the ecocide international crime as well as bring a stable accountability for the ICC?
I will try to simplify the question or maybe rephrase if you have commentary about that, Mr. Rakib, feel free to give me a feedback. I think his point, Pak
Yeah.
Yatno,
Yeah.
is related with the periodical ideas of environmental damage before the conceptualization of international war crimes or maybe international crimes in post World War II. Mr. Rakib said that before the era before the World War II and beyond, he believes environmental damage already be conducted by major power in the previous countries or maybe previous colonies. But at that time, before the law being conceptualized on post World War II, there is no such thing as international crimes in ecological sites. But now it already became a new norm, especially after maybe the UN and also Security Council maybe conceptualize the idea of war crime itself and have responsibility for those who uh, being labeled as the one who had to take the responsibility. In this kind of position, what do you think if we put the stance not only in the less powerful state, but in the major powerful state, do they have to take a more sharp stance, or they should maintaining their balance a little bit quietly, maybe?
Yeah. I think so if we try to explain with the realism, in international relations or international politics, with the realism perspective, we can see how the major power countries try to pursue their interest with the how to create their power. So this is not easy for us to hope how to make everything decisions regarding environmental damage, for example, is easy to solve because everything depends on the pursuit of the states itself. So we just want to say geopolitics can explain what the power to push major power, other major power doing some revision or doing some fixing of the damage using the others power. This we call it geopolitics. For example, today we cannot push US, for example, to responsible with their activities without hope for the China or Russians push US also because like realism explained, we cannot see how is so far effectiveness without understand about how so far their big interest in the world. This is the crucial problem because if we see major power, and so it means if we see also they have a big power because they have many big interests in international politics. I think it depends on the how to create geopolitical shift dynamics. I think that's my questions. Hopefully, can fulfill your answer.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yatno, because it's quite related with maybe in international human rights studies with a logic, I forget, cultural appropriations, because somehow we could classify it not as a crime, but in certain kind of period of time, we could be condemned if we should do certain kind of
Yeah.
thing because it classified as a crime in
Yeah.
ecological subject, I suppose. So we still have a time, all of the participants in here. If you have any other question about ecological damage and maybe international law, international politics, positioning themselves in international environmental uh, damage or crimes, you could ask your question. You still have time, maybe 20 minutes. Is it possible, the committee? 20 minutes? Okay. We still have time, 20 minutes. Nah, it's from Nabila Pirsa in the chat box, Pak Erno. I have another questions. Is it possible, even though we still, if even so until now the government of Indonesia is still on the abstain stance, but Miss Nabila question is quite interesting. How far or maybe in what extent that the government of Indonesia propose these issues to the international level, if it's still possible in this government?
I, I don't know why because I am living in outside for a long time, and then I see my country as Suram. But our president asked me to leave our country if I still mention Indonesia Suram. It's okay. Because I'm really pessimistic. So sorry, because it's compared to previously government today, we have not good posture, international posture in foreign policy. How we can propose our issue if we don't have a good position in the international politics like today? We can see our foreign policy is not clear anymore. PEPAS active is not implemented anymore. Yeah? Because I don't have any answer, a good answer for this position because I'm really pessimistic with our governments. Even though I'm Indonesian living in outside and living overseas, I'm still loving my country, of course, because Good MPG's answer. uh, I'm really, I'm really same with my student also ask me MPG, MPG in canteen our campus. But Prof Yatno gave me MPG in canteen, so really, really same for me. Because this is not if international relations student academician, we have to realize this is not a good position in international political posture. How can we propose our issue if they don't see as a good position? I think this one, but sorry, I cannot answer this question because I'm really pessimistic.
Yes, Pak Yatno, maybe you could occasionally check the chat box. There really has interesting chat room in here, and maybe all of you participant you are not come from Indonesia. This is a funny reaction from the netizen in Indonesia. Maybe
Yeah,
if you want
I'm
to
I'm
know
I'm
more
happy
about this.
for personally I'm happy now because ringgit is stronger than rupiah. And then when I
Oh,
send my ringgit to rupiah, my wife is happy.
yeah.
This is not happy for as Indonesian citizen. Only happy for my wife. This is ironically as an Indonesian citizen.
Yeah, Pak, it's quite a heated conversation with our netizen because suddenly our neighborhood country became very rich when our rupiah is cracked down, and we should know how they granulate with each other because we feel quite disappointed. But anyway, this discussion is live streaming in YouTube, so yeah, just hati-hati.
Okay, good. I agree with you.
Thank you, Pak Yatno. There's a question from our students who raise his hands now. You can open your microphone, maybe. Pandu, time is yours.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, firstly, thank you, Professor Suyatno, for the presentations and the answers from the previous questions that I'm enjoying. But now I want to ask a question that's a bit of a redirection from the other questions. It's about Gaza, I think specifically, since the 2025 ceasefire, the humanitarian access and uh, reconstruction in Gaza remain quite heavily restricted despite the absence of active siege or hostilities. Now, if environmental and infrastructural destruction can continue to constrain a population survival even after those active siege or hostilities end, thus the question is, does the current legal architecture of jus in bello, which is triggered only during active armed conflict, need to be rethought, like uh, for a reality of prolonged blockade and a slow motion post-conflict harm, or well, it's just what it is, maybe. Thank you.
So it's mean how to solve this problem in the Gaza war, yeah.
Yeah, Pandu. Is right?
Yeah, like previously that we discussed it, as long as America still back off Israel and as long as Israel can be defeated, I think the Gaza is still a big problem. But nowadays, I think we have to see even little bit progress, but still progress process. How Hamas, for example, try to metamorphosis, to be as a local government to pursue progress in Gaza. But we punish if we try to punish Israel, it's not easy because in just this international law, we can see how US still back up US, and also this is this is a real conditions in our situations. How we can defeat the big major power, how can defeat superpower. Of course, we try. Of course, we should against with the big power, others power also, like Iran using the China and Russia, something like that. So the Gaza problem in the future, I think, depend on the how can make Israel as a loose apart. Can easy, but as long as Israel can stand together with the US, I think it's not easy to solve any problem in Gaza until now.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Yatno, about the question from Pandu that we somehow should pay our attention more on Gaza's conflicts, not only about infrastructure damage and also ethnic and genocide activities, but also we should see it as a systematically act to wipe out the community and somehow also systematically made people in Gaza starving. The idea of genocide itself now should be spread not only in the ethnicity focus, but also the attempts to make the community inside the region miserable, maybe with the blockage of water, fresh water, continued bombardment, and the blockage of food storage in those region. Those systematically act somehow could increase our interest in understanding should environmental issues be classified more further into the genocide attempt. And somehow, if we could look at the uh, current news of environmental issues in uh, position itself in international crime, uh, several countries in Pacific Island like MSG nation, what's it we call it MSG, the small country Micronesian states in Vanuatu, Fiji, Saint Martins, and etc. somehow have a significant attempt to submit ecocide amendment in the Rome Statute and the EU Environmental Crime Directive enters into force in May 2026. Maybe this amendment or those attempts to amend the Rome Statute and also EU Environmental Crime should be seen as an advocate position to increase the awareness of the importance of climate change and maybe how far it affect Micronesian countries like Vanuatu, Fiji, and etc. And somehow our countries has intervened stance with them because somehow the issues of Vanuatu being linked with the idea of Papua independence in Indonesia. It's also a quite debate, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Prof. Yatno?
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. If we mention genocide and also ecocides as happens today in Gaza, I totally agree. Not only genocide and ecocide, but also the others criminal like a war against for criminal, yeah, for crime, yeah, like crimes against humanity, war crimes, and also aggressions is a good definition if we try to mention how Israel conquer or attack Gaza. This is a fifth five crimes in the world. Yeah, not only ecocide, genocides, but also war against humanity and also aggressions. I totally agree. This reason why, even though we understand, we realize it's not easy because we face the big wall, strong wall like a U.S. Backup, but we have to support any voices and loudly voices how to support free Palestine, for example. Yeah, because if we ask for the international community on and on, understand, realize how is important situation in Gaza. It is important, yeah, not only in every moment, such as in the World Cup era, how Free Palestine also as can still tensions as effort of part of community in there. So on and on, we still need to push together how to free Palestine, especially to overcome Gaza, because we cannot desperate or hopeless to solve this Gaza, but in IR perspective, we understand in realism, for example, we found this is the big challenge for our community, but we still have opportunity using the others power to push US agree with our commitment, for example. I think that is my opinion and answer, Mbak Palupi.
Thank you, Pak Yatno. I think it's one question. I think it's not at this from our student also. Nadia, time is yours to ask question to
Okay,
Pak
thank you,
Yatno.
Bapak Lupi. Am I audible? Thank you, Professor No, for your lecture. I have questions. The ICC's Office of the Prosecutor has reportedly been finalizing a new policy on environmental crimes, while political momentum for the Rome Statute Amendment is said to be building behind the scene as of mid-2026. If the Office of the Prosecutor can already interpret and prioritize environmental war crimes under existing law, does the formal ecocide amendment even matter as much as prosecutorial will and political resourcing?
Can you, sorry, but can you highlight for the last sentences?
Last
That's your
sentences,
questions.
Nadia.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe is it the importance of the ecocide itself or the actors? Or maybe you can simplify the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Is okay?
Okay. If the Office of the Prosecutor can already interpret and prioritize environmental war crimes under existing law, does the formal ecocide amendment even matters as much as prosecutorial will and political resourcing?
It's been so sorry. So what were the exactly your questions? Mbak Nadia?
Nat. Hello, Nat. Is it possible maybe you can translate in Indonesia? I will help you to deliver it to Pak Yatno. It's okay.
I'm sorry, I think my internet is...
It's okay. Maybe you can translate in Indonesia, or maybe you can write it on the chat box.
Just I just want to know the last sentences because
Yeah,
this last sentence is questions. Exactly questions. What is that?
We will wait for a while, but
Yeah.
it seems that Nadia has a technical problem with it.
Yeah. Because sometimes clear, sometimes not. Okay.
This one is texted on the chat box. If the Office of the Prosecutor can already interpret and prioritize environmental war crimes under existing law, does the formal ecocide amendment even matter as much as prosecutorial will and political resourcing? Yeah, it's a critical question, but
Yeah.
if the Office of the Prosecutor can already interpret and prioritize environmental terms and conditions applied.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So, as a optimistic academician, amendment is important as a good effort. Put the ecocide as a fifth international crime. This is a path forward. Yeah. So I still believe formal ecocide amendment is important because this is not only to protect our environment, but also this is as protect our future because even though we know there are many big interest in the ICC in the major power to influence ICC, but as academician, as international relations, still hope how to amendment of ICC is still important. So still give our suggestion, our clear voice. Apposite amendment is one of important effort to make clear, especially in just using Belo as a part important of ICC interpret. I agree with you.
Okay, Nadia, it's also quite a good question whether it is to allow in law studies perspective, I suppose, but it's quite interesting because in IR perspective and maybe in international politics, I agree with you, Pak Yatno. This kind of amendment is quite important because it's not only ensure the transnational justice process, but it prevent the other atrocities happens in the future with different tribunal system,
Yeah.
with different decision making process, with the different interests inside the individuals or elite or political elites inside states or outside the state and vice versa. So I think it's quite related with the ideas of crimes against peace in Rome Statute, whether it's before the crime against peace is stipulated.
Yeah.
Somehow we also only relied on Nuremberg Tribunal ad hoc sources and several ad hoc tribunal like in Rwanda or in Yugoslavia. But in the meantime, the global powers and also international community also think that they should create a more established law system that ensure those atrocities do not happen again in the future. Like an SOP maybe, Pak,
Yeah.
in a simple
Yeah.
way in order to prevent those atrocities
Yeah.
happening in
Yeah.
the
I
future.
agree. The keyword is prevent. Yeah. The keyword
Yeah.
is prevent. This is our hopes. Prevent.
Yeah, because if we only relate on domestic law
We cannot.
system,
Cannot.
yeah, we cannot rely on that much. And if it happens in different circumstances, the result also will be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a one raised hand from Johanna Afilia Bigot. Could you open your microphone, Miss? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good
Can you hear
morning.
me?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to start first saying thank you to the professor because I was really scared for this lecture. I thought I had to have some background in law, but the professor had made the lecture very easy, very clear. During the lecture, it was mentioned that only states can sue other states in the matter of ecocide. So my question is, even if the evidence is there, we can see it. No other globally organizations can like act on the matter. I have another question because I came from a finance background. When in the cases when a state won against another state, so how is the winning state compensated? Is more like economically or perhaps another kind of sanctions? Thank you.
For the first question, what is that, Mbak?
I think, Johanna, I will try to rephrase your question, but if it's still different with your initial question, please give me feedback. At first, Johanna, I could conclude that is it possible to sue another state
Yeah.
if a state
Not
the
only state. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's because
Yeah.
my question is
Yeah.
about a state
Okay.
suing another state.
other
Yeah.
states. It's
So this is
possible
Yeah.
in this
this
condition.
is the reason why we need to amendment because in ICG
ICGs.
we can only sue state, not the non-state actors. So we need to amendment first as a formal amendment like Nadia mentioned previously. So we need to amendment first because in international law we can only sue state, and then the problem is sovereignty. The problem is a membership. This is our weakness of the international law. And the second question, but
Johanna, maybe you can
second question
re
is
Yeah, yeah,
how
translation.
to pay compensate. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
yeah.
compensation.
This is a real situation. Now take a long time to for example, I don't have detailed evidence, but mostly not only the process for a long time, take off for a long time, but also compensate is not easy to take an action because sometimes uh, I don't have any clear detail, but in my references, I can see this is not easy. Even though some states win with the other state, state other with the other state, need a long time to make clear how to compensate. Like for example, like promises of the Trump, to pay retaliation in Iran, for example. This is just a promise. In international relations, because my background is international relations, because influences of the interest is more big as a big more influences rather than the law, because politics sometimes more beyond the law. Yeah. So uh, if the state cannot pay compensate, for example, so they can try to use the others policy such as international, such as relations in the economic, in the social, as a good ways. The others relation. But sorry, I have no detail how to case by case because my background is international relations. So it's mean just to see how the situation, a conflict between state, and then how to see a process the conflicts finally to solve. But in my opinion, it is long time. It's not easy uh, to realize compensates as a good payment, for example.
Thank you, Payatno, for the answer. I agree with you in the I don't say it as a repatriation, but how to take the full responsibility from the cases. It's quite difficult. That already happens in shell cases. I forgot the exact country, but it's still in Africa. And it really related with indigenous people. One of my student groups found the case studies on the previous classes in environmental crimes. They found the fact that several community and maybe in Kenya or Nigeria tried to sue, I don't know whether it is British Petroleum or Shell, to two different legal tribune. The one is in Den Haag and the second one is in London. In the Den Haag tribunal, because the MNC is headquartered in the Netherlands, they still have an ongoing judicial process. But in the British legal system, the community of indigenous people of those country, I forgot the country, they tried to give compensation, material compensation to the community because the environmental damage that have been done by the company. But once again, the barrier is the different legal process in the countries because the MNC is headquartered in the Netherlands, but the joint venture is between the British and also the Netherlands. They have to fight vigorously in two different legal mechanisms. Whether it's the one is in the Netherlands and the second one in British legal system. And the intersection is the most damaged actors is the indigenous people.
Yeah.
Maybe it could help increase
Thank you.
Johanna emphasizing on the environmental legal process on these matters. Thank you
Thank you.
for the answer, Pak Yatno. I think it's the last session of our discussion. I'm afraid that before 10 minutes before, I'm afraid that we cannot fulfill the time schedule well, but now we
It's
still
okay.
have
Don't mind.
a very high rate discussion on the last minute of our discussion. I do really appreciate your time. I hope our discussion today doesn't end it in here. We still have a time to discuss later. Maybe is it possible for the participant to reach out you through email? I had no.
Okay,
Is it
it's okay.
possible?
Possible. Very
Thank you.
possible.
Maybe our committee will share your email address to the participant. If you can continue the discussion, we will very grateful for your time. On the behalf of the committee on this session as a moderator, I would say thank you for Pak Ayatno for today's dialogue, today's material, and also today's discussion. And also for all the participants, thank you for your enthusiasm and difficult questions. It's also challenged our knowledge, I think, Pak Ayatno, for international relation ideas about international crimes and also environmental damage. And I hope we could discuss it again later in Undip, ya Pak Yatno.
Yeah, of course.
All of the students in here, I hope you could enjoy our discussion today. And this is the end of session 8 in day 4 of International Relations Summer Course in Diponegoro University. I'm sorry if I have any technical inconvenience before, and I will give the time and floors to the MC. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Madya Dr. Suyatno Diki, our respected moderator, Mrs. Palupi, for leading such an insightful discussion. And with that, we have come to the end of the day 4 of the IRUD Summer Course 2026. We hope today's discussion have provided fresh perspectives on the relationship between international politics, environmental governance, and sustainable development.
And before that, as always, we're going to end this discussion panel with documentation. So I really hope everyone get their cameras on and put on their best smile. I'm going to count down from 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Thank you very much. Our sincere appreciation goes to our distinguished speaker, Professor Madya Dr. Suyatno Ladiki, and our moderator today, Ms. Palupi, for generously sharing their knowledge and expertise. We also like to thank all the participants for your enthusiasm, insightful contributions, and continuous engagement throughout today's program.
We would also like to apologize for any shortcomings or inconvenience that may have occurred during today's session. Thank you for your understanding and continued support.
As today marks the final day of our academic sessions, we'd like to briefly explain the assignments outlined in the IRUD Summer Course 2026 guidebook. As part of the program requirements, every participant is required to complete the final project assignment in the form of a short reflective essay. Don't worry, the suggested essay structure can be found in the guidebook.
So that's the mandatory assignment for all participants. In addition, if you're interested in having your work considered for publication, you may also choose to complete the optional post-program assignment. You may choose either a commentary essay or a journal article. Selected commentary essays may be considered for publication in the TOC review, while selected journal articles may be considered for publication in GIRUD NIP, subject to the editorial review and selection process.
For assignment submissions, please access the class material link provided in the guidebook. Once you open the link, navigate to the final assignment submission folder. Inside, you will find 2 separate folders, final project assignment and post-program assignment. Please upload your work to the appropriate folder.
Both the final project assignment and the optional post-program assignment should be submitted no later than 13 August 2026. For more detailed information, we encourage everyone to refer to the IRUD Summer Course 2026 guidebook. Should you have any questions or need any clarification regarding the assignment, please feel free to ask in our official WhatsApp group. Our committee will be happy to assist you.
Lastly, we would like to share an important update regarding our program schedule. Please note that the closing ceremony, originally scheduled as the final day of the summer course, will instead be held during our final session on August 13th. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience the adjustment may cause and greatly appreciate your kind understanding.
We sincerely hope to see all of you again at our final session, where we'll reflect on the inspiring discussion we've shared throughout the summer course, take part in our review and integrative discussion, celebrate our journey together, announce this year's award recipients, and officially conclude the IRUD Summer Course 2026.
Until then, keep exploring new perspectives, continue asking meaningful questions, and as well,
Speak up, think deep, and dig deeper. Thank you, everyone. Have a pleasant afternoon. Stay safe and see you again on August 13th for the final session and closing ceremony of the IRUD Summer Course 2026.
Thank you everyone. Terima kasih Pak Yato.
Terima kasih. Jumpa lagi Semarang nanti, Mbak ya.
Baik Pak, terima kasih. Thank you everyone. See you later on the closing ceremony.